There are a few noteworthy video gaming experiences I had when I was a child, encounters that broadened my horizons and defined how immersive and wonderful the medium could be. Playing Pilot Wings with my dad and growing frustrated at the intense challenges, exploring the vast, wild, and enchanting landscapes of Hyrule, with the first of my younger brothers now firmly in tow. Yet there was one game and its sequel that presented something fresh at the time, and are a source of timeless enjoyment for me as an adult. I'm of course referring to Donkey Kong and his incredible Country series. Now, Donkey Kong in all his lovable stupidity has gone through a variety of styles to match his adventures. From 3D sprites charging through gorgeous multi-layered backdrops, to wide-open collectathon goodness, and back to the side-scrolling of the SNES heyday, plus some significant improvements. While DK has never seen a huge drop in quality, and while I've sunk countless hours monkeying my way around in search of bananas, it was Diddy's Conquest that first truly scratched that itch for Twitch-based peril. And at its core, DKC2 was a maturation of everything that made its big brother such a standout both when it was released, and still a treat to this day. So, enter Diddy Kong, DK's companion in the first installment and our protagonist for this one. At the apex of our adventure, we're left with a single note from King K. Rool, taunting us under the guise of a pirate captain. The Kremling leader's lack of subtlety aside, the demand is the return of the banana hoard he had previously stolen from the Kongs. Diddy, ever rambunctious and not one to just give up their cache of goodies, sets off with his girlfriend Dixie to save his uncle from some creepy clawy clutches. Now, if I remove my nostalgia-tinted glasses for just a moment here, I won't lie. That premise isn't exactly barrel-busting, although I'd argue that was never the point to begin with. From the outset, we're given clear motivation moving forward, with all the obstacles laid out in front of us. Sounds pretty good to me. However, there is a subtle undertone to the narrative. Diddy, despite appearing in more country games than his uncle, has always been under the big gorilla's shadow. In the DK64 manual, there's even a mention of Diddy being the wannabe nephew, which, while somewhat endearing, isn't exactly what you'd want to be called. However, when you take this into consideration, it gives Donkey Kong Country 2's narrative just a touch of nuance. Instead, we see a story where Diddy finally has the spotlight, and not only does he succeed, but he does so by traveling to the Kremling homeworld and fighting through even more difficulties than he and DK faced back home. While he isn't alone in this venture either, the point still stands. He has to ape up and do what needs to be done, and all without the leader of the bunch. While the game's enjoyment certainly doesn't hinge on having any insight into these relationships, nor does it even really provide any, it's something I appreciate about it looking back as an adult. I'm sure my brother related to Diddy far better than I, seeing as he was the youngest sibling at the time. And thinking back on it, his love for Diddy's character is a whole lot clearer when you piece it all together. And sure, Diddy would want to save his uncle anyway, and the idea of the youngster rising up to save the elder isn't exactly a new story trope. But this added touch provides just that layer of motivation to Diddy's quest, and I love it. And so, we're off to save DK, but the Simian Shaker is being held by K. Rool at the summit of Crocodile Isle. Starting out on the pirate ship the first game finished on, you quickly delve into enemy territory, traversing perilous lava lakes and crystal-infested mine shafts before the landscape gradually gets more strange and unforgiving. And all the while, we're treated to the same eye-catching visual style that made its predecessor such a joy to behold. Only this time there's a shift in focus. Not only is there more detail than before, but the color choices are more varied. Add to that the game's strange worlds, which, when combined with this enhanced focus, help to lay on an air of unfamiliarity to match the uncertainty one would have entering the enemy's homeland. This all helps to create a more vibrant and powerful sense of progression, with the intro to the game casting off immediately following the first adventure, providing a strong connection immediately. We quickly see how Rare had already sought to take everything to the next level. At the start of the game, the sun sits high in the sky, out of sight. It's a beautiful day, and these sentiments are echoed throughout the simple level design you expect to encounter in a game's initial stage. Then we're scrambling up and up, reaching the topmost portions of the ship. While the sun is still shining brightly, our view is slightly obscured by the wind and cloud cover whipping through. This helps to convey height and danger as we hop and scramble across ropes, but at least we're not obscured in darkness yet. Returning to the main deck, we see the sun is now in view, just hanging at the upper edge of the horizon, and as we continue onwards towards the next stage, it gradually shifts downward. That's right, sunset. And as it says its goodbye for the day, the color of the sky and the ocean changes to match it. By the time you've traveled through the dank depths below deck and returned above, night has fallen. and a storm threatens to throw you from the mess. In a 5-stage span, there's been a clear progression from a bright, clear day, the perfect beginning to an adventure, to a dark and dicey downpour, a fitting end to the first world as we leave the familiar behind. Not only have we seen a full day come to pass, but it helps to convey just what you're getting into. You're entering the heart of the enemy fortress, and it's going to be a tough journey. Better grab plenty of extra life balloons while you can, because you're gonna need them. Now, mechanically, DKC2 picks up where Country left off, with precise platforming, baddie stomping, and in-level secrets to uncover. However, there are more nuances to the gameplay this time around, and that comes down to some of what players already picked up on. While levels in DKC1 primarily utilized the very old-school left-to-right progression, rarely deviating from this and, when it did, not articulating it as well as it could have been, DKC2 throws caution to the wind. And that's not to say there wasn't care taken in crafting the stages, but there was certainly an effort to change up the formula. For example, plenty of the stages travel back and forth across the screen, all whilst moving ever upwards. Meanwhile, stages that flow from left to right incorporate all new methods for advancement, ranging from even more precise baddie hopping to delicate movement using balloons and airflows. Add to that an ape-tastic combination of blast barrels, swimming, animal buddies, and environmental effects, all with the same banana pathways to guide the player forward, and progression becomes more exciting than ever. Only now there's a greater emphasis on hidden extras. With DKC2, bonuses were changed radically, instead featuring an obvious barrel labeled as such most of the time. Now, I say greater emphasis because all the bonus tokens are needed to access the Lost World, and thus the game's true ending. While you don't have to get all the bonuses to complete and enjoy the game, there's a certain potency involved with collection, especially when you sometimes have to discover bonuses through your own ingenuity. Playing on people's desire to explore and collect, this also provides a large amount of replayability. With such a newfound flow within stages, it made exploration all the more exciting and rewarding, and with bonuses now so important and tangible, it takes the appreciation to another level. Now, it's also important to mention our cuddly companions, as they add an important and distinct focus to the game. In DKC1, finding one of them was tough because they were fairly well hidden most of the time, and while they were helpful for completing stages more quickly, at large they weren't necessary. This is where the added importance of the animal buddies comes to the fore. With stages going through far more unique stylings, the Kong's companions also got an upgrade, and are frequently incorporated into stage progression and bonus collecting. The latter half of a few stages are almost exclusively completed while using the abilities of a friend, while some levels simply turn you into that animal entirely. While Rambi and On Guard return essentially unchanged bar a new bonus opening Supercharge, Squawks reappears sporting increased helpfulness and new abilities, carrying the Kongs through great danger and raining eggs onto unsuspecting foes. Add to this some new buddies, some controllable and some passive. Radley boasts more measured vertical movement than his predecessor Winky, while Squitter combines more precise platforming with ranged attacks. Not only is there a greater quantity of allies, but their application is more poignant, helping to create more extensive, demanding, and thrilling stages. That being said, we can't forget Diddy's true companion for this treacherous trek, Dixie. Sporting quite the vivacious ponytail, she's an accessible character thanks to her patented helicopter move. Floating through the sky, it's both a great way to save an untimely fall and helpful in simply avoiding trouble trotting back and forth below. She was an inspired addition to DKC2 and still amongst my favorite characters, adding a new dimension to the gameplay. However, this isn't reliant purely on her unique skill set. What's really cool is how her and Diddy can team up. Similar to using an animal buddy to access new areas, you have the ability to pick up your fellow chimp and toss them in any direction. While this might seem aimless, it allows you to reach locations that would normally seem just out of reach, annoyingly so. This adds another layer to level design, opening up greater avenues up high that would have been previously unreachable. You'll frequently find bonuses by chucking one of your compatriots to unforeseen locations, and when you do discover these secrets, it's all the more satisfying that you found it using a little ingenuity. Backing all of this is what is arguably the centerpiece of the game and my all-time favorite soundtrack. Atmospheric, majestic, and downright gamey, it not only makes for peaceful listening by itself, but also fits the theming of both the game as a whole and the progression from world to world. Where there is chaos, discord, and a whole lot of monkey business comes a soundtrack that is at times surprisingly calm, but most of all, sure of itself. Flying timidly amongst brazen bramble, we're treated to the most serene yet auspicious track imaginable. And every song in the game sets the tone for what's to come, matching the theming of each world and stage wonderfully. Swimming through the ominous expanse of a dimly lit sunken ship, the thunderous drums of Lockjaw's saga set the tone for the task ahead. You know, there's always a hint of hope in the melody that plays over the top. Anyway, that's about as far as I'll go in regards to the soundtrack. Myself included, it's been pretty thoroughly explored at this point. In short, it's arguably the most well-loved aspect of the game, and for good reason. And on that note, I don't have much else to add, so I won't pretend to have some insightful connections outside of what's in the game. Yes, while I do have a lot of nostalgia for it, it's coming from when I was about 6 or 7 years old. Any reminiscence over this game is more so happy memories enjoyed with my father, and not so much all the detail I can analyze and pull from it now as an adult. As such, this was primarily a way for me to delve into why I love this game so much. Beyond that is simply, well, I played it as a kid, so therefore it must be good. And now that I think about it though, I'm not gonna apologize for being sentimental about this game. Diddy and Dixie's level completion antics and the excitement of finally conquering that tough stage, the joy of finally discovering that tough-to-reach bonus barrel, the unexplainable feeling of calm and happiness generated by Sticker Brush Symphony, hell, the opening with that awesome jingle. Donkey Kong Country 2 was a defining title for so many people, and years later, it's easy to see why. Anyway, to echo a friend, I just reviewed one of my favorite games of all time, and I hope I did it justice.